I don't know what to do for this one. Fuck it. Let's just start. Alright, so we're just going to jump into the video on this one. We're already in the computer. I'm just going to show you guys basically how to weed out the trash influencers, stick with the good ones. This is after you would see the first video, assuming you have your list built up. Like I said, I would recommend that you just keep on following pages that would be open for business, stack up your list, and then from there you would move on to messaging them. I'll make a separate video on how I personally message them, and I'll include live examples on that. But for now, we're just going to go straight into this. We're going to just assume that, at this point, we're going to assume that you basically already messaged them and you've gotten some responses. So I'm just going to use the same examples we did on the first video. So I'm going to go based off the 9 that we followed. And we're just going to basically, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to assume that all of these ones already did message us back. And we'll go from there. So basically, the first step I would do, actually, I'm going to use the Word document this time. I didn't use the last video, so yeah, I caught that on myself, but whatever. So the first thing is that after we DM all the users in our list, we will basically start accumulating the average cost per post based on the offers received. So, excuse the spelling. Basically, you're going to want to, I'm not even going to correct that. That's accumulating. I just don't really feel like going into fixing that. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to essentially get all the influencers and the ones that hit us back up, and we're going to ask them, okay, what's your rate for a 24-hour post, for a 12-hour post, for a story? And we're going to just kind of compare them so we can get a ballpark range of how much influencer costs in your specific niche. This varies from niche to niche. Some niches are like $2 for like a 24-hour post for a 10K page, and some are, like $100 for that same amount of followers, but it's a more specific niche. So you want to get your ballpark range for your niche. You could contact pages relatively in the same size, so maybe 10 to like 30K, and just kind of figure out that ballpark range, and then the next step up, and the next step. And then maybe you could even use, sometimes I use like the 100K pages, like say they charge me $10, I use that as a scale for how much I should pay like a 20K page or 30K or 50K page. So yeah, so just go ahead and try that out. It can help a lot. Basically, you just want to kind of know your ballpark range. So for step 2, after we find influencers and we find our ballpark range, we're going to want to basically check for 5 things as step 2. To make sure that the influencers are legit. We want to make sure that their followers are legit, their comments are legit, and they have good engagement. These are 5. These next tips are going to be 5 factors that you want to check to make sure that that influencer is actually a good influencer and it might bring you sales. So here we go. So the first thing I like to check for is, I'm going to put some stashes. I read through the comments to make sure they are real people commenting and not engagement groups. So basically, you want to stay away from engagement group comments. Basically what engagement groups are is they're a group of people within the same category of page. So basically a lot of people within like the photo niche with all Instagram pages, and they basically boost each other up. They basically go through each other's pages and they comment. Stupid little things, even whether it be emojis or like repost or nice basic ass comments basically. And from there, they basically they do that so they can boost themselves up to the Explorer page, which is cool for them and it makes their page look great, but for you as a marketer, not great. These are going to be comments from people who would not buy your product because all they're interested in is boosting each other up. So we want to read through the comments, make sure we don't have any of those. If we have a few, that's okay, but we want to make sure it's mostly real people. Alright. So number 2 thing I would do is I would go through the people following the page and make sure their accounts are legit. And I'll do up to 30 at random order. So basically what I mean with this one is that we want to go through the people following that page, and we want to just randomly tap a couple of them, kind of scroll and tap. You want to get a good amount of people. Just, you know, I usually recommend at least 30. Sorry, should I put at least? At least 30. So that way we can kind of gauge whether they're real followers or not. Because a lot of people could buy fake followers nowadays. It's not uncommon at all. Usually like 1,000 followers is only like $8. So a lot of people do tend to do that to boost their page. So you want to go through their followers and just kind of make sure they're legit. You want to maybe click on every other one, or maybe like click 5, scroll down a couple good amounts, click another 5, and just make sure their followers look legit. You want to make sure these people are posting like regularly. They look like real people. You know, their bios aren't blank. They're not all like locked accounts. You know, they all look. You just basically want to make sure they all look legit. And yeah, so that's step 2. Step 3 is one I check, and it's kind of not that much people actually check it, but I've noticed that it does help. It doesn't really help on all pages because it really depends what kind of post the page posts basically. So that's going to be looking for the amount of views a page gets on their post. Basically, this actually will tell you if they have fake followers or not, because fake followers or bots do not register as video views when people like post their videos, when pages post their videos. So if the amount of video views looks good compared to their amount of followers, then that's a good sign that they're using real followers. But if it does not, then that might be a sign that they're using bots, and I would stay away from them. Alright, and then the next thing we're going to do is check their rate of followers using Social Blade. Let me make this a little smaller so you guys can actually just fit it all in one document. Let's go. Okay. So for those of you who do not know what Social Blade is a website where you basically type in the user's @ and it'll tell you the amount of followers they're gaining per day, and it'll show you a graph. You want to make sure that graph looks pretty steady. You don't want it to be random jumps. So you don't want them to have like 3,000 followers one day, and then the next day or the next 3 days they have like 10 followers each day. That just basically shows you that yes, they did buy followers and they're using bots. You know, that basically is not a good sign for you to be promoting on that page, because nobody's going to buy it, because these people either do not exist or they're not, you know, willing to purchase because they are like fake followers. So the last step is going to be check engagement percentage. Put engagement percentage. So how we're going to do this, we're going to use another website name. I think it's called Flax. I don't know, but I'm going to show you guys anyways. So you just want to basically run through, type in their username, and it's going to give you the engagement percentage. You want to make sure engagement percentage is between, I would say 2 to 6% is a good ballpark range. If it's any lower than that, I would stay away from that page. If it's drastically high, then they might have bots or fake followers, so that's just one thing to keep in mind. But you want to check their engagement, make sure that people are actually going to like your post, your ad, and maybe possibly buy. So those are just the 5 steps I do when I'm actually checking if the follower is legitimate. Alright guys, so you might notice my change of clothing. The reason for that is when I was actually editing this video, it ended up being like 25 minutes long because I actually walked through the process and all that. So I didn't really want the video to be super long because I know that could get boring and can kind of get intensive on yourself. So what I did is I cut the video into 2 parts. So this part, the part you're watching right now, part 2, will basically just show you how, you know, I give you guys the steps of what I do. In part 3, I want to actually demonstrate those steps. So give it another 2 days and the next video will be out with the steps actually in motion, like me going through it. Steps 1, 2, and then the 5 sub steps for part 2. So just stay tuned for that video. Sorry about that. I just didn't want to make the video too long for you guys. Yeah, just stay tuned. It's about Ecom.